A character that is experiencing domestic abuse, and did being a mum to daughters play into that decision or impact your decision to take on the role?
I didn't look at any one thing in her life because I think she's so much more than this thing that happened to her. And yes, it can change the course of her life, but it doesn't define her. She defines herself. And that to me is really, really beautiful. She's not a victim and she's not a survivor. Well, she may be a victim and she may be a survivor. She's also multitudes.
Hey, besties, it is Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. I have some exclusive tea for you because I can say without a doubt that Blake Lively's legal team is absolutely panicking right now. And I can tell you this with confidence because of what I'm hearing in the background. And a lot of it has to do with this scramble that she's making regarding content creators like me. That story is starting to pick up steam in the media with numerous outlets starting to pick up the story and realizing that Blake Lively is attempting to shift her story and change the narrative, which is trying to now ignore that Jed Wallace had anything to do with the smear campaign, and now it's the content creators that are involved. But she has a humongous problem. And what is that problem? It's that Jed Wallace was dismissed yesterday. His dismissal absolutely annihilated her case, and she knows it. And while her team is publicly making claims that his dismissal was only based upon the jurisdictional issues and that they still intend to evaluate their options against Jed Wallace in order to hold him accountable for what he has done. Those were a summary of what the quote was to People magazine of what her attorney said in court yesterday during a emergency meeting about her deposition. It was apparent, very apparent, that there is some serious trepidation about whether or not they intend to refile a case against Jed. And Blake, even though she filed for a protective order, demanded that everyone come to her lawyer's office, said she was going to be at the deposition over and over and over, and racked up all of these costs, had lawyers fly in for it from out of state, from California and from Texas. She ultimately ended up canceling her deposition for today. The judge in yesterday's emergency meeting gave Blake the opportunity to file a dummy complaint, meaning all she had to do was file a placeholder for an amended complaint against Jed to re add him to the case. He offered them the opportunity to even refile her amended complaint and add Jed back into the case only so that he could participate in the deposition. Blake did not want to allow Jed Wallace's attorneys to depose her because, under her view, he was no longer a party to the case. Now, Jed is actually suing her in the state of Texas, and it's not listed as a associated case in federal court in New York because it's in a completely different district. And because it's not listed as an affiliated case, they don't share the same protective order in that case, and she hasn't been subpoenaed for a deposition in that case yet by Wallace. So Wallace's attorney, Charles Babcock, was basically just intending to ask her a couple questions, and he said he was only going to need about an hour. Blake didn't like this idea that she would have to be deposed by Jed. And because the judge said, you should be doing this deposition, I'll give you an opportunity to add him back in. You don't need to have the excuse that he is not a party anymore. Just file a dummy complaint and it'll be fine. Now, Jed Wallace's attorney objected to this idea by the judge and said, I don't know about that. It depends on how stupid this dummy complaint would be. And I don't want her to add anything ridiculous like a RICO charge against Jed, trying to bring in an even bigger like conspiracy as though it's like organized crime. So, given that at the end of this emergency meeting, Blake said she was going to go through with the deposition, only moments later, after that meeting ended, ultimately she decided to cancel her deposition. And the panicking that's happening within her legal team isn't just about Jed's dismissal, it's about her entire case collapsing. Why is it collapsing? It's easy because in her amended complaint, Jed Wallace is the facilitator of the digital campaign. He's the one that was hired by Melissa Nathan. And according to her belief, she told the court that Jed mobilized a team, maybe in Hawaii. We're not in Hawaii, by the way. And he used content creators and he used all these other people to launch this campaign against her. She's been trying to state for months that Shasti Flaw posting a video on August 10th about an old interview she did in 2016 was somehow encouraged to be posted by Wayfair. Shasti is a Norwegian press junket journalist. She doesn't do it anymore, but now she does more stuff on YouTube. And Shasti has publicly, vehemently denied this. She has never had contact with anyone. But the point is there was in her amended complaint, the judge noted in Jed Wallace's motion to dismiss that she cited two prices in her complaint that Wayfair could pay for options for social manipulation. She told the court that because he was hired for social manipulation, he ultimately is the person that is managing that entire campaign. It's not Melissa Nathan, it's Jed Wallace, because Melissa Nathan is only cited for speaking to Sarah Nathan. And when it was laid out in this way by the motion to dismiss, it's clear that the judge views Jed in her complaint as the person that managed the social campaign. In fact, on page 9, he writes this on August 6th, 2025. Even though Nathan and Tag had already started working for Wayfair and Baldoni, Nathan texted Abel and Heath regarding price quotes for their services. She stated, $175,000. This will be for 3 to 4 periods and includes website, discuss full Reddit, full social media takedowns, full social crisis team on hand for anything, engage with audiences in the right way, start threads of theories to discuss this in a way to be fully 100% protected. Quote 2, $25,000 per month, minimum of 3 months as it needs to seed, same as above. This will be for the creation of social fan engagement to go back and forth with any negative accounts, helping to change the narrative and stay on track. All of this will most importantly be untraceable. There's a lot more to both of these quotes, but easier to discuss via phone in terms of capabilities and what I have personally experienced in and out of crisis scenarios. And then it says on August 7th, Abel and Nathan discussed putting social combat plan into motion. On the same day, Abel asked Tag employee about whether a quote included the initial fee as well as social media mitigation and proactive fan posting to counter the narrative, or whether it was in addition to the $15K previously agreed upon and does not include what we discussed with MN earlier regarding social manipulation from the separate team based in Hawaii. And then it says, Lively alleges on information and belief that Tag engaged Wallace around this time, and also on information and belief, he specializes in executing confidential, untraceable campaigns across various social media platforms, including TikTok, Instagram, Reddit, and X, to shape public perception of his clients and their adversaries. Lively alleges on information and belief that Tag retained Wallace to weaponize a digital army around the country, including in New York and Los Angeles, to create, seed, manipulate, and advance disparaging content that appeared to be authentic on social media platforms and internet chat forums. So her entire claim is that we are part of that digital army. We are supposed to be this person that's working for Jed, and it's our job to create and seed and manipulate and advance disparaging content, but to make it appear that it's authentic on social media. So she told the court, Jed is the person that Nathan retained to get these content creators, in so many words, to do the work for him and make it look organic. Make it look like these people speaking out are just doing it organically, not that they're actually just random people that happen to be reporting on a situation. The judge made clear that Wallace was the manager of the digital campaign. His dismissal from the case means who would be managing us then? The content creators. Who's managing us? If Jed's gone, how does she have the right then to subpoena us as content creators as being part of his digital army? If he's gone, the manager of the digital team, quote unquote, and there is no digital team, we're not part of one, he's out. So then how do you subpoena the people that are quote unquote working for him? You can't. And they know it. And they're scrambling and panicking. Blake Lively's reluctance to file a dummy complaint and to just sit for a deposition today gives me a lot of pause as someone that's watched this case play out in the public. Despite what she says about the smear campaign, the truth, more than anything, is that Blake's case is about chilling the freedom of speech, a fundamental right to every single US citizen across the United States, and chill the freedom of press of independent creators who make content and report on news topics and public records, and chilling them by intimidating them, hoping to silence their voices in the hopes that their stories won't get picked up by the wider mainstream media. In this day and age, it is the smaller creators, the smaller independent journalists that are really shaping what the mainstream media looks at for what is newsworthy. And when there's an organic backlash about how she promoted a film and how she treated domestic violence, she can't handle that criticism. So now her case is floundering. Jed has gone. So what is she doing today? Today, she has completely changed her story. This is what she's doing now. Even though Jed has been dismissed, and even though the judge told her that in order to file an amended complaint, she will have to provide evidence and proof that Jed Wallace knowingly did something to harm her directed at New York. Because in her amended complaint, she stated that almost everything happened outside of New York. Almost all of the content created had nothing to do with New York. And if Jed was not aware of a conspiracy, which she cannot claim that knew, she has to literally tie a direct action to what he did that actually caused her harm, which is going to be next to impossible. My sense is that she didn't want to sit for that deposition with his attorneys because I don't think she knows if she can even file a lawsuit against him at this point. The judge made clear she can only file it under very strict parameters. And she finds herself in a very similar situation as Justin Baldoni when he was allowed to amend only a very small portion of the complaint against her. Does she really have enough to file a new complaint against Jed with what she's been given through discovery? The answer is no. How do I know that? Because she is shifting her story. And now she is telling our legal teams that it isn't that Jed was the orchestrator of the smear campaign. She's refusing to accept that Jed was now who she has stated was the digital army man. Now she's changing her story and saying, no, he wasn't the digital army man. The smear campaign is actually all of them. Every party of Wayfair is part of the smear campaign. It wasn't just Jed. Jed isn't the one that mobilized the digital armies, all of them did. So now she's lobbying even more false allegations against Wayfair. So to save her claims, because she knows that she has no evidence against Jed, now she needs to try to fabricate a new theory. And that is that digital content creators and independent journalists are now the actual campaign. And let me tell you something. This strategy that she has decided to take has started to make a lot of people in the media uh, very concerned. I just got off the phone with a journalist for Variety, and my conversation with Variety was one of surprise by them that Blake and Ryan would go to this level to try to control speech online, because there's no other reason that they would do this other than to try to control speech online, because none of us had anything to do with the smear campaign. And when she tries to control the speech of independent creators, there's nothing to say that they wouldn't try to take the same steps to intimidate and silence and bully the wider media in the mainstream, which begs the question, why was it that when everything was starting to come out and Justin's lawsuit, even though dismissed, provided evidence of a counter narrative to what she was stating, why was it that there was some media outlets and some specific journalists that were willing to regurgitate word for word the same story to multiple outlets, all painting digital independent journalists and content creators as misogynistic eco slop that's fueled by alt-right propaganda and conspiracy? Not one of those outlets that wrote articles like this discussing the content being made about Blake gave any credence to the fact that content creators might just be making videos on Blake Lively based upon a lawsuit. Instead, they sought to discredit the reporting and lumping everyone into a box. And the article was repeated over and over and over. It was in Glamour magazine, an op-ed in New York Times, in The Atlantic, in The Guardian, in the New York Magazine. The same story, regurgitated word for word almost. Every content creator is alt-right, misogynistic, and anti-Me Too and anti-woman. And yet, she really decimates this right now, because what she's done is she's going after almost exclusively women in her subpoenas. Most who are not alt-right, are not anti-woman, are not misogynistic, not anti-feminist, and not anti-Me Too. They're just reporting on a story. I think we're at a turning point with the media now, where they're starting to see what's going on. And maybe it's that they try to keep things neutral and unbiased, and they want it to look like the appearance that they're not going to take a side. And I understand that. But I think all journalists, whether big or small, should be concerned about what they're seeing with Blake and Ryan Reynolds. This is a power couple willing to bully creators that have no followings, to silence their critics and control what's said about them online. And by the way, calling someone a mean girl and a bully is not actionable defamation. That's an opinion. Sharing that you didn't like what she said or you didn't appreciate how she promoted a film isn't defamation. Criticizing the way that she marketed a film isn't actionable defamation. Criticism is protected free speech. And seeking accountability isn't abusive. All she had to have done was taken accountability for the way that she marketed the film and apologized, and the internet would have forgotten. And she has increasingly made things worse with this new move. And now that her team is shifting the narrative off of Jed Wallace and onto content creators, I think it's fair to say that nobody is off limits, and she's willing to go after anyone that says anything about her. And that is scary. That's scary for people like me that are facing thousands of dollars in legal fees. That is scary for the smaller creators that aren't even monetized. We live in a society where we have been told over and over by the wider media that our democracy is at risk. And it was the left side of the narrative, the left political spectrum that kept telling us this. And what I find most disconcerting is because this couple appears to be on the left, and yet they're doing exactly what they accuse the right of doing. It's a threat to our democracy when we silence the press. It's a threat to our democracy when we silence the speech of citizens. That's the threat. And so if you care about democracy, you shouldn't care about if somebody online doesn't like you. So moving forward, Blake is unwilling to drop these subpoenas. She's unwilling to accept that none of us were paid. She's unwilling to believe that this is organic, even after everything. And with Jed Wallace out now, we are now the targets. We are now the ones that are going to be defamed. And her attorneys are defaming people directly. Her attorneys are telling us, you are part of a smear campaign and you are paid by Baldoni and you are doing this, which is literally on its face accusing us of crimes. So Blake won't sit for a deposition because Jed is out. Blake is now saying Jed isn't the one that orchestrated the smear campaign. All of you are, and you're independent and Wayfair's paying you. And then what happens once we are found to have no evidence? Who then does she blame? How many millions of dollars will it take for her to just drop this lawsuit altogether and accept that there was no smear campaign? It seems there's no amount of money that she's not willing to spend. So who really wanted to destroy who? Did Steve Sarowitz want to spend $100 million to defend himself and defend his company from her, which I think is reasonable? Is it Blake that's the one that's willing to spend 100 million to destroy people? Because that's what it looks like. And her case is falling apart. And at some point, the media will have to accept who Blake and Ryan are. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. All right, you guys, that's the scoop today on Blake and Ryan and her case crumbling and the panic that is ensuing and how her legal team is trying to piece together and put her case back together so that she can move forward. When the truth is, yesterday her case completely fell apart and she won't accept it. So tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and please make sure to click the bell so you never miss a video. If you're interested in supporting our channel, please consider sending super thanks. And thank you so much for all of your support. Our videos do not get as much ad revenue, and I don't know if that's because of Google and Ryan Reynolds and his companies having relationships with Google, but any amount that you provide via super chats and super thanks helps so much and will certainly help our legal fees. All right, y'all. Bye, besties.